Captain Daniel Moore sat in the cockpit of the small exploration ship, the Starseeker, watching the planet grow larger on the view screen. He could see clouds moving across green oceans and wide stretches of strange forests. It was a new world, far from human space. The mission was simple: survey the planet, gather samples, and make sure it was safe for future colonies. Daniel liked missions like this. They were quiet, and there was always a chance to discover something no human had ever seen. Beside him, Lieutenant Laura Benson checked the instruments. She was young, but careful. Her brown eyes followed every reading on the screens. "Captain, sensors are picking up unusual energy readings," she said. "It's faint, but it's coming from that forested region." Daniel leaned closer. "Faint energy. Could be natural, but it's worth checking. We need to know what's on this planet." He turned the ship. "Set a course for the source. Slow approach." The ship moved down through the atmosphere, gliding over tall trees with silver leaves. The forest looked alive, almost like it was glowing under the light of the distant sun. Daniel could feel something strange in the air, a tension that made his heart beat a little faster. After 20 minutes, the ship landed in a small clearing. Daniel and Laura put on their light exosuits and stepped outside. The forest was quiet, except for the wind brushing through the trees. Then they heard a small cry. "Did you hear that?" Laura whispered. Daniel nodded and started moving toward the sound. They came to a small stream and saw a child. Not a human child. Its skin was pale blue, and its eyes were bright gold. The child's legs were scratched and bleeding. It looked frightened and weak. Daniel knelt down. "Hey, it's okay. We're not going to hurt you," he said softly. The child backed away and hid behind a rock. It made a small noise, almost like a whimper. Daniel looked at Laura. "We can't leave it here. Someone will find it, and it won't be safe." Laura nodded. "We should take it back to the ship. At least patch it up and figure out what it is." As they reached out to the child, the forest shifted. Trees bent strangely, and a figure appeared. It was tall, regal, and unlike any being Daniel had ever seen. Her skin shimmered like polished metal, and her eyes were a deep violet. A long cloak flowed behind her, and she carried a staff that seemed to hum with power. "Step back," she said in a strong, clear voice. "This child belongs to me." Daniel froze. We didn't know. We just want to help." The figure stepped closer. Her presence was commanding. "You are human," she said. "You think you can decide what is right for others. But this child is not yours to take." Laura's hands rose slowly. "We only want to make sure it is safe. It's hurt." The Queen studied them for a long moment. "It is safe under my protection. No one will harm him while I am here." Daniel felt a mix of awe and confusion. "Who are you?" he asked. "I am Lyra, Queen of this land," she said. "And this child is Kiran. He is under my care." Kiran peeked from behind the Queen's cloak. His golden eyes were wide and curious. He looked at Daniel and Laura with a small, cautious smile. There was something in those eyes that made Daniel feel protective. Daniel took a careful step forward. "Queen Lyra, we can help him. Our medical supplies, our technology, we can make sure he heals quickly." Lyra's eyes softened for just a moment as she looked at Kiran. Then she shook her head. "No. This is my responsibility. Humans, you do not understand the importance of what this child is. He is more than he appears." Laura frowned. "We don't understand, but we know he's in pain. We just want to help him." Lyra looked at them for a long time. Finally, she raised her staff, and the air shimmered. Daniel felt it like a quiet pressure against his chest. The forest around them seemed to hum with energy. "If you touch him, you will regret it," she said. Daniel swallowed. "We're not going to fight you. We just want to make sure he is safe. The Queen studied them again and finally nodded slowly. I will allow you to observe, but do not interfere. And stay behind me. Kieran took a step forward. Daniel saw how small and fragile he looked compared to the Queen. He noticed something strange. Even though Kieran was hurt, he had a light in his eyes. A kind of confidence. He was scared, but he was not weak. Daniel watched as Lyra approached Kieran. She knelt down, and her hands glowed faintly. Kieran's scratches and bruises started to fade. The child giggled softly, leaning into her touch. Laura whispered, "He's healing already. That's amazing." Daniel nodded. "Yeah." Lyra looked up at the humans. "This child will grow strong, and when the time comes, he will change the fate of many. But for now, he must stay with me." Daniel understood. There was something bigger here than a simple rescue. This child mattered more than they could see. And the Queen, she was willing to risk everything to protect him. The humans stepped back, letting her finish. Kieran ran to the Queen and held her hand. He looked at Daniel and Laura and gave a small smile. It was a quiet gesture of trust, and Daniel felt a surge of determination. He wanted to protect him, too. Lyra rose and looked at the humans. "You have seen him. You have seen his place under my care. Leave now, humans. Return to your ship. This is not a matter for you." Daniel nodded slowly. "We understand. We'll leave, but we'll be watching. And if anyone tries to harm him, we'll help." Lyra's eyes narrowed slightly, but there was a hint of respect. "Very well. Go." As Daniel and Laura returned to their ship, they looked back. The Queen stood tall, holding the child close. Even from a distance, they could see the bond between them. Daniel felt a strange admiration for the alien Queen. She was fierce, brave, and caring. He realized that protecting Kieran was more than a duty for her, it was a promise. Laura touched Daniel's arm. "Do you think he'll be safe?" Daniel nodded, though he could not be sure. "With her? Yes. But something tells me this child is going to change everything, and we're going to be a part of it, whether we want to or not." The humans lifted off in their small ship, leaving the clearing behind. The forest shimmered under the alien sun, and Kieran's golden eyes watched them go. Daniel felt a sense of purpose forming inside him. He did not know what the future held, but he knew one thing. Some battles were bigger than humans alone. Some lives, even a small alien child, were worth fighting for. And the Queen, standing tall and unyielding, was ready to protect him no matter what. This is part 1, about 1,000 words, introducing the humans, the alien child, the Queen, and the start of the story. It sets up the mystery, the HFY element, and the conflict without overcomplicating the language. I can continue with part 2, where humans try to gain the Queen's trust, and the danger surrounding Kieran becomes more intense, if you want. Daniel and Laura flew their small ship back to orbit. The planet below looked peaceful from above, but both knew it was anything but calm. The child, Kieran, was safe for now under Queen Lyra's protection, but danger could come at any moment. Daniel stared at the planet and shook his head. "He's special, Laura," he said quietly. "I can feel it. That child, he's going to change things. I don't know how, but he will." Laura leaned back in her seat. "And that Queen, Lyra, she's something else. I've never seen anyone like her. Strong, smart, fearless. And she's protecting him like he's the most important thing in the universe." Daniel nodded. "Yeah, humans aren't the only ones who fight for what matters. But we need to know more. Why is everyone after him? What makes him so important?" Laura looked at the instruments. "Sensors picked up unusual signals before we left. I think someone or something is tracking Kieran. We should be careful. Laura. Laura. They made a small base on the planet's edge, keeping their ship hidden in the forest. From there, they could observe without being seen. They watched Queen Lyra's palace from a distance. Even from far away, her power was clear. The palace walls shimmered, as if they were alive, and the guards moved with precision, ready for anything. As night fell, Daniel and Laura sat quietly outside their temporary camp. Kieran appeared briefly at a balcony, looking at the stars. Daniel felt a strange pull in his chest. He wanted to help this child, to protect him, even if Lyra did not need their help. The next morning, the humans decided to approach the palace. They wanted to understand the situation better. They walked carefully, staying in the shadow of the trees, until they were near the main gates. Queen Lyra appeared, standing in the sunlight like a statue. "You are back," she said. Her voice was calm but firm. Daniel stepped forward. "We wanted to see how Kieran is doing. We're not here to take him. We just want to help if we can." Lyra studied him. "You are brave, but humans are not part of this world. Your ideas of help may be dangerous. Kieran cannot be moved. He belongs here. I cannot allow anyone to remove him from my protection." Laura spoke up. "We understand. But if someone comes to take him, we can help defend him. You saw us fight before. We can be useful." Lyra raised an eyebrow. "Useful? Perhaps. But usefulness is not trust. You must prove yourselves before I will allow any closer involvement." Daniel nodded. "We understand. Just tell us what to do." Lyra's eyes softened slightly. "Follow me, but stay behind." They entered the palace. The halls were wide, glowing with soft lights. Daniel and Laura followed quietly, careful not to touch anything. Kieran walked ahead, holding Lyra's hand. He looked at the humans for a moment and gave a small smile. Daniel felt warmth in his chest. The child trusted them, even with Lyra watching. Lyra led them to a large chamber filled with screens and alien symbols. "This is where we monitor the outside world," she said. "Hostile forces are looking for Kieran. If they find him, they will not hesitate to kill." Daniel stepped closer to a screen. "Who are they?" he asked. "Enemies of my people," Lyra said. "They want the child because of what he represents. He is special. One day, he will carry the future of my world and others. But now, he is young and must be protected." Laura frowned. "Special how? What can he do?" Lyra looked at Kieran. "Not yet. But his mind is sharp, his heart strong. He has abilities that will grow with him. That is why he must remain under my care." Daniel nodded slowly. "We understand. But if you ever need help, we're ready." Lyra studied him carefully. "Perhaps. Time will tell if humans are worthy allies. For now, you will remain observers." The humans spent the next few days learning more about the palace and its defenses. They watched how the guards moved, how the walls seemed to respond to the Queen's commands, and how Kieran spent his time learning and exploring under Lyra's watch. They could see that Kieran was intelligent beyond his years. He solved puzzles easily, understood complex machines, and seemed to notice details no adult would see. One afternoon, Daniel noticed something strange. Kieran was near a control panel that glowed with soft light. He reached out, and the lights changed in response to his touch. Daniel blinked. "Laura." Laura nodded. "I saw. He's interacting with the technology, like he understands it, instinctively." Lyra noticed Daniel and Laura watching. She came over. "Yes. He has an affinity for energy and machinery. That is why the enemies want him. If they capture him, they could use his abilities to control powerful forces." Daniel felt a chill. "That's serious. If they get him, They will fail, Lyra said firmly. And I will not let them succeed. That night, Daniel and Laura sat outside the palace walls, talking quietly. This is bigger than we thought, Daniel said. We're not just observing a child. We're watching the future of an entire planet. Maybe more. Laura nodded. And Lyra, she's amazing. She protects him with everything she has. Humans could learn from her courage. Daniel smiled. We need to be ready. Something tells me this is just the beginning. Trouble will come, and when it does, Kieran will need more than just a queen. He might need humans too. The next day, a faint signal appeared on their instruments. Daniel and Laura watched closely. Small ships were approaching the palace from the horizon. They were sleek, fast, and armed. Daniel's jaw tightened. They found him. Laura's eyes widened. Daniel nodded. We will. But we have to be careful. If they see us, they might attack before we can help. They watched as Lyra's guards moved quickly to defend the palace. The humans could see her giving orders, directing forces with calm authority. Even from a distance, her presence was commanding. Then Kieran appeared on a balcony, watching the approaching ships. He looked small, but there was determination in his golden eyes. Daniel felt a surge of admiration and protectiveness. The child was brave, even facing danger he barely understood. Laura whispered, He's not afraid. Not really. He trusts her. And maybe he trusts us too. Daniel nodded. We'll see soon if we can earn that trust. If those ships attack, we'll need to act fast. As the enemy ships closed in, Daniel and Laura prepared. They had small weapons and shields, nothing compared to the palace's defenses. But they had something more: human courage and quick thinking. Daniel checked his blaster. Let's hope it's enough. Laura gripped her weapon. For Kieran. The first lights of the approaching ships reflected in Kieran's eyes. Daniel realized then that the child was more than anyone had expected. He was a symbol, a future. And protecting him meant more than just keeping him safe. It meant standing against forces that could destroy everything. And Daniel and Laura were ready to fight. The sky above the palace was filled with strange shapes. Enemy ships moved with precision, their engines glowing red against the soft blue of the planet's atmosphere. Daniel and Laura watched from their hidden position, hearts pounding. They had never seen anything like this. Queen Lyra stood on the balcony, her cloak flowing behind her, holding Kieran close. The child looked at the approaching ships calmly, his golden eyes bright. Daniel wondered how someone so young could stay so steady in the face of danger. There was something extraordinary about him. The first shots fired. Beams of light streaked across the sky, hitting the walls of the palace. Daniel ducked instinctively, even though he knew the humans were not the main fighters. Laura pressed close beside him. They're trying to break through the defenses, she whispered. Daniel nodded. We have to be ready. If they get to Kieran, it won't matter how strong the palace is. Lyra raised her staff, and a shimmering barrier appeared around the palace. The enemy beams bounced off it, sending sparks into the air. Daniel and Laura watched in awe. The queen was powerful, more than they had imagined. But there were too many ships, and even her strength might not hold forever. Then Kieran did something unexpected. He stepped forward, reaching out his small hand toward the barrier. The shimmering energy reacted to his touch, pulsing faster and brighter. Daniel blinked. Laura, did you see that? Laura's mouth opened. He's controlling it. The child is helping the queen. Kieran's golden eyes glowed brighter. The enemy ships faltered as the barrier expanded, pushing them back. Daniel realized then that Kieran was not just important. He was dangerous to anyone who wanted to harm him. He could fight, even without understanding fully what he was doing. Lyra's voice rang out, strong and clear. Stand back, humans. This is my fight. But do not turn away if you are brave enough to help. Daniel looked at Laura. We're not going to just stand back. He might need us. Laura nodded. For Kieran. They ran toward the palace, dodging enemy fire. Their small shields deflected the worst of the energy blasts, but they could feel the heat. Daniel fired at a small group of enemy ships, aiming carefully. A few went down, but there were too many. Inside the palace, Lyra moved with incredible speed and precision. Every gesture of her staff controlled the defenses, redirecting beams and forming shields where the enemy tried to break through. Daniel and Laura followed as best they could, helping to evacuate corridors and push back attackers. Kieran stayed close to the queen. But Daniel noticed that the child was watching everything carefully. Every move, every enemy ship, every shift of energy. He was learning fast. The child's mind was sharp, beyond his years. At one point, a smaller enemy ship broke through the outer defenses. It landed near the palace walls. 2 alien soldiers emerged, moving quickly toward Kieran. Daniel saw them and shouted, "Laura, we've got to stop them." They fired, hitting the aliens and slowing their advance. Kieran didn't panic. Instead, he lifted his hands, and a wave of energy pushed the enemies back. Daniel could feel the force, strong and pure. The child's power was real, and it was growing by the second. Lyra turned to Daniel and Laura. "See what I protect. See why this child cannot leave. He is more than a child. He is the future of my people. And now, you see why I cannot trust anyone else with him." Daniel nodded, swallowing hard. "I understand. He's incredible. I've never seen anything like him. We'll protect him, if you let us." Lyra studied them. "Perhaps. But first, you must understand what it means to be responsible for lives that matter to many. One mistake, and everything is lost." The fight continued for hours. Daniel and Laura worked alongside Lyra and her guards, learning quickly. They saw the queen's strategies, how she used terrain, energy, and timing to control the battle. Kieran stayed close, and his powers grew with every moment. The humans began to see a bond forming between child and queen, one that was unbreakable. At one point, Kieran reached for a control panel again. This time, he did more than pulse energy. Beams shot from the panel, striking the enemy ships with precision. Daniel's jaw dropped. "He's aiming," he whispered. "He knows exactly what to do." Laura's eyes widened. "This child, he's amazing. How can someone so small have so much power?" The queen noticed their surprise and smiled slightly. "He learns fast. He watches. He thinks. He acts. That is why he is protected. That is why he matters. And that is why humans like you must earn the right to be near him." Daniel felt a swell of respect. "We'll do whatever it takes," he said firmly. "He's worth it. We'll fight with him, and for her." The enemy ships began to retreat. They realized that taking Kieran was impossible. The queen, the child, and their human allies had won the battle. Daniel and Laura watched as the sky cleared, the last enemy ship disappearing into the distance. Kieran turned to them, smiling softly. Daniel knelt. "We did, and we'll keep helping, if you let us." Lyra approached, her eyes calm and proud. "You fought well. You showed courage, loyalty, and quick thinking. Perhaps you are worthy to be near him, but the child stays with me. That is not negotiable." Laura nodded. "We understand. We just want to protect him. We respect your choices." Kieran looked at the humans and reached out his hand. "Friends?" he asked. Daniel smiled. Lyra studied them again, and her violet eyes softened. "Very well. You may stay. You will observe, and you will help when needed. But remember, He is under my care, first and always. This is not a game. His life, and the future of many, depend on it. Many, many. Daniel and Laura nodded. We understand, Queen Lyra. That night, the palace was quiet. Kieran slept close to Lyra, and Daniel and Laura sat outside, looking at the stars. They could feel the bond growing stronger, not just between child and queen, but also between humans and this strange world. Laura whispered, "He's going to be incredible, and we'll be part of it." Daniel nodded. Yes. And one day, when he grows, the universe will see what we saw today. Bravery, intelligence, and the courage to stand for what matters. For the first time, Daniel felt something more than duty. He felt hope, not just for humans, but for all the beings who could fight, protect, and make a difference. And Kieran, the child they had met by chance, was at the center of it all. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear. Humans and aliens, working together, could face anything. And Daniel and Laura were ready to face it, with courage, loyalty, and the determination to protect a child who could change the galaxy. The next morning, the sky was quiet. Too quiet. Daniel and Laura stood at the edge of the palace courtyard, watching the horizon. The previous attack had been repelled, but both knew it was only a matter of time before the enemy returned with greater force. Queen Lyra moved among her guards, checking weapons, shields, and patrols. Her presence was calm, but commanding. Kieran stayed close to her side, his golden eyes alert. Even in the quiet, the child seemed ready, as if he could sense danger before it arrived. Daniel whispered to Laura, "I think they're planning something bigger this time. The last attack was just a test." Laura nodded. "We need to be ready, and we need to help the child survive, no matter what." Lyra approached them, her violet eyes scanning the horizon. "You survived the last attack. You fought well, but the next one will be different. Many of our enemies are approaching at once. They will not show mercy. Are you prepared to stand with me?" Daniel squared his shoulders. "Yes. We're ready to fight for him, for you, and for this palace." "I mean," Lyra nodded. "Good. Then follow my orders, and stay close to the child. He must not be harmed. Everything else is secondary." The humans nodded, and together they moved to the palace's main control hall. The walls were alive with glowing symbols, screens, and controls. Kieran stepped forward to a small console. As he touched it, beams of light arced across the room. Daniel and Laura watched in awe as the child activated defensive mechanisms, controlling the palace systems like he had done before, but faster and with more precision. "He's growing stronger," Laura whispered. Daniel nodded. "Yes, and faster than we expected. If he keeps this up, he might be able to protect himself entirely." Lyra's voice cut through the room. "Not entirely. He is still a child. His strength is great, but it is raw. That is why you are here. Your courage, your decisions, and your actions will protect him when he cannot protect himself." Suddenly, alarms blared. Daniel's stomach sank. The enemy ships were approaching, larger and faster than before. This time, it was a full fleet. Hundreds of ships forming a dark line across the sky. "They're here," Daniel said quietly, gripping his weapon. Lyra raised her staff, and the palace walls shimmered with energy. "Prepare for battle. Kieran, stay behind me." The first wave of enemy ships fired, sending beams of red light toward the palace. Daniel and Laura activated their shields, running to defend the main gates. They fired at smaller ships that tried to break through, their shots guided by instinct and quick thinking. Kieran stayed close to Lyra, watching the battle carefully. His small hands moved over the console, and beams of light shot from the palace walls, striking enemy ships with accuracy. Daniel realized that the child's powers were growing with each moment of danger. One enemy ship broke through the outer barrier, landing near the palace walls. Daniel and Laura rushed to intercept it. Two alien soldiers jumped out, charging toward the gate. Daniel fired, and Laura's shots followed. The aliens fell back, but they were strong and fast. Kieran stepped forward, his golden eyes glowing. A wave of energy shot from him, pushing the attackers back. Daniel watched in amazement. "He's doing it himself," Laura whispered. "He's controlling energy now. He doesn't need the Queen to guide him." "Thank you for watching. This really talk too." Lyra watched, a proud smile on her face. "He is learning. He is brave, but he must still be protected. This is his first true battle." The humans fought alongside Lyra's guards, holding the enemy at bay. Daniel noticed how the Queen used the palace's energy systems, guiding Kieran's powers while directing the soldiers. It was like watching a well-oiled machine, with each part working perfectly. Kieran ran to a small platform and touched it. The energy from the platform expanded outward, creating a shield that pushed back multiple enemy ships. Daniel and Laura joined him, helping to aim beams at attackers. For a moment, humans and aliens were united in perfect coordination. Then more ships broke through the outer barriers. They were larger, armed with heavier weapons. Daniel saw a wave of panic among the guards, but Lyra remained calm. She raised her staff, directing energy to reinforce weak points. Kieran followed her movements instinctively, his powers amplifying the defenses. Daniel whispered to Laura, "We're part of this now. We're really part of this fight." Laura nodded. "And if he falls, we fail. We can't let that happen." The battle raged for hours. Enemy ships fired relentlessly. Beams struck the walls, shaking the palace. Daniel and Laura ran through corridors, helping wounded guards, activating defense turrets, and guiding beams toward attackers. Kieran stayed close to Lyra, but he also moved through the palace, helping where he could. His powers were impressive, but he still needed guidance. At one point, a massive ship landed in the courtyard. Daniel and Laura ran to meet it. Alien soldiers poured out, moving quickly toward the palace doors. Daniel fired, taking down several, while Laura covered his flank. The enemies were strong, but humans and guards fought back fiercely. Kieran touched another control panel. A blast of energy shot from the walls, striking the enemy soldiers with precision. Daniel's jaw dropped. He's thinking strategically. The child is thinking like a general. Lyra smiled. He learns quickly, and he has courage. That is why he must remain under my protection. He will be more than just a child one day. The enemy fleet began to retreat, realizing they could not take Kieran. Daniel and Laura watched as the last ships fled into the distance. The palace stood, battered but unbroken. Kieran turned to them, smiling. "We won?" he asked, his voice small but full of pride. Daniel knelt. "Yes, and you helped." Lyra approached, her eyes calm and proud. "You fought well. You learned what it means to protect someone important. Remember this lesson. Responsibility is not just about strength. It is about courage, strategy, and loyalty." Laura nodded. "We understand, Queen Lyra. We will always protect him." Kieran looked at the humans and smiled. "Friends?" Daniel smiled back. "Friends." Lyra studied them again. "You may stay. You may help when needed. But never forget. He is under my care first. That is not negotiable." That night, the palace was quiet. Kieran slept close to Lyra, and Daniel and Laura stood outside, looking at the stars. They could feel the bond growing stronger, not just between child and queen, but also between humans and this strange world. Laura whispered, "He's incredible, and we're part of his journey now." Daniel nodded. "Yes. And when the universe sees what he can do, they'll know what we saw. Bravery, intelligence, and courage. And maybe they'll respect humans too." The battle had tested them all. It had shown the humans' courage, Kieran's growing power, and the Queen's unyielding strength. The future was still uncertain, but one thing was clear. Humans, aliens, and Kieran together could face any challenge. And Daniel and Laura were ready to stand with them, no matter what came next. The morning after the battle was quiet. The palace walls had scars from the enemy attacks, but the structure remained strong. Daniel and Laura walked through the courtyard, helping guards repair minor damages and check the defenses. Kieran ran ahead, laughing softly as he explored, his golden eyes shining with curiosity. Queen Lyra watched from the balcony. Her violet eyes softened when she saw the humans working together with her guards. She had tested them, and they had proven themselves. They had courage, intelligence, and loyalty, the qualities she respected most. Daniel approached her carefully. "Queen Lyra, the repairs are going well. We're ready to help if anything else happens." Lyra looked at him. "You have done well. You fought beside us, showed bravery, and cared for the child. That is more than many humans could do. And in things." Lyra looked, and in fifth. Lyra looked at him. Laura added, "We only want to help. Kieran. He's special. We want to make sure he's safe." Lyra nodded. "He is safe. That is why I have refused to release him. He belongs here, with me and my people. But you have shown that humans can be trusted. You will remain as allies and protectors." Daniel felt a swell of pride. "We'll do everything we can. Life. Wing life. Life. Wing life. Wing life." Kieran ran up to them, holding a small device he had found among the palace controls. He smiled. "Look, I made it work." Daniel crouched down. "You did? That's amazing, Kieran. You're learning so fast." Laura smiled. "You're clever. And brave, too. I can see why everyone wants to protect you." Kieran looked up at Lyra. "I help too, right?" Lyra knelt down, brushing a strand of hair from his face. "Yes, little one. You helped, and you were brave. But you are still young. You must grow stronger under my care. There is much for you to learn." They were much Kronster. Kieran nodded seriously, then looked back at Daniel and Laura. "Friends?" Daniel smiled. "Friends." Laura reached out and ruffled his hair gently. "Friends," she agreed. For the next few days, the palace returned to a sense of calm. Daniel and Laura helped teach Kieran small tasks, guiding him carefully while respecting Lyra's instructions. They showed him simple human tools, games, and ideas, while Lyra taught him control of his energy powers, strategy, and responsibility. One afternoon, Daniel watched Kieran practice with the palace defense systems. The child's movements were precise, quick, and thoughtful. Every action he took seemed to make the palace stronger. Daniel whispered to Laura, "He's growing fast. Soon, he'll be able to do what even Lyra cannot do alone." Laura nodded. "And we'll still be here to guide him if he needs us. He trusts us now." Later, Lyra called them to the main hall. Her eyes were serious, but there was a hint of pride. "The enemy will not forget this place," she said. "They will return eventually. But they will find it much harder now. And Kieran, he is ready to take the next step." Daniel felt a mixture of excitement and concern. "What step?" he asked. Lyra gestured to Kieran. "He will begin learning the responsibilities that come with his power. He must understand the weight of his actions. the importance of his choices, and the meaning of protection. Kieran looked nervous but determined. I want to help. I want to protect everyone. Lyra smiled gently. And you will, little one. But first, you must learn patience, wisdom, and courage. You have the strength, but strength alone is not enough. Humans, I trust you will guide him where you can. But remember, he belongs to my people first. Daniel nodded. We understand, Queen Lyra. We will help without overstepping. We want him safe and strong, Laura added, and we'll protect him from anyone who tries to hurt him. The Queen studied them for a long moment, then nodded. Very well. Then you may stay. Your presence will be part of his growth. But know this, your actions, your courage, and your loyalty will be tested again. The future is not certain. Daniel felt a quiet determination in his chest. We're ready. Whatever comes, we'll stand with him. Over the next few weeks, Daniel and Laura saw Kieran grow. His powers became sharper, his mind quicker, and his bravery more certain. He learned to control the energy that flowed from the palace, and he began to understand strategy and tactics. The humans were impressed by his intelligence, but more than that, they were moved by his heart. Kieran often laughed and played with Daniel and Laura, but he also observed, studied, and learned. He was not just a child, he was a future leader, a protector, and a symbol of hope. One evening, the humans sat with Lyra on the palace balcony. The sun was setting, painting the sky with red and gold light. Kieran sat between them, quietly watching the horizon. Lyra spoke softly. You see what this child can become. But his journey is just beginning. The universe is not yet ready to see his full potential. That is why he must remain here, protected, guided, and loved. Daniel nodded. We understand, and we're honored to help. He's more than a child, more than a symbol. He's everything we want to fight for. Laura reached out to Kieran's small hand. And we'll be here. Always. Friends. Kieran smiled, gripping their hands. Friends? Lyra looked at the humans, her violet eyes calm but filled with strength. Then go forward with courage. Protect him when needed. Teach him what you can. But never forget, he is my responsibility first. He will grow under my care, and one day, he will change the universe. Daniel felt a quiet awe. He had met many powerful beings, seen great battles, and faced impossible odds. But this child, this queen, this bond between humans and aliens was something different. It was hope, courage, and the promise of a better future. Kieran leaned against Lyra, his golden eyes closing as he relaxed. Daniel and Laura watched him, feeling protective, proud, and inspired. Laura whispered, He's going to be amazing, and we get to be part of it. Daniel nodded. Yes, we fought with him, learned from him, and protected him. And now, we'll see what he can become. The universe will never forget this child, and it will never forget the courage of those who fought beside him. The stars appeared above, bright and endless. Daniel looked up, thinking of the battles they had fought, the lessons they had learned, and the promise of the future. The humans, the queen, and the child had faced impossible odds and survived. And together, they would continue to face whatever challenges the universe had in store. Number 1. Kieran slept peacefully. Queen Lyra stood tall and strong, and the humans watched over them, ready for anything. The future was uncertain, but it was theirs to shape. And in that quiet moment, Daniel felt hope. The kind of hope that only comes when bravery, loyalty, and courage meet Destiny. The palace was safe. The child was protected. And the bond between species, human and alien, had grown stronger than ever. Together, they would face the universe. And no challenge, no enemy, could break the trust, courage, and friendship they had formed.